Coming at you from beautiful my apartment in Bloomington and I believe Sam's basement in Crown Point. We are
my new room in the basement in Crown Point.
We are coming at you with a new thing we're going to try. We're going to try a little video preview of tomorrow's IU men's basketball game against Michigan State. We will be going up there. We will be making the long drive through all of the snow and doing all that stuff. But we figured, we wanted to, kind of talk about our thoughts on the game, what we wanted to look for, and what you guys should probably be looking for in the game. So, Sam, Michigan State tomorrow. What are you looking for primarily?
The big thing with Michigan State that I'm just looking for immediately is more something related to Indiana, I guess, in a way. Because Michigan State defends the three really well. Second best in the Big Ten. 27.9% is their opponent's three-point shooting average. Indiana's a team that we've seen time after time this year relies on the three-point shot. Saying that, last game against Nebraska, Indiana didn't rely on the three-point shot. It was one of the 4 games this year where they've only made 7 threes in a game. They're 3-1 in those games. So it's kind of weird how Indiana relies so heavily on the three-point shot. MSU defends the three-point shot really well. What's going to happen there? Is Indiana going to be that team that we saw all through non-conference that is shooting all these threes, relying on that, having James Blackman shoot it, whenever, wherever, Yogi putting it up whenever, wherever? Or are they going to be that team that we saw against Nebraska where I think almost every significant, successful possession at one point was in the paint, like Tom Crean likes to see. Get the ball in the paint, let that kind of work its way out. And it worked really well against Nebraska. Are they going to be that team, or are they going to be this three-point chuck-it-up-wherever team that we've kind of seen? That's what I'm looking for just from that perspective, only because Michigan State defends the three so well. Are we going to be seeing this Indiana team evolve a little bit? Are they going to become a team that kind of plays in the paint, tries to drive, and I guess drill penetrating the shots, or what are they going to do? That's my big thing. I want to find out more about Indiana.
I think that's true on the opposite end, too, because Michigan State shoots the three a lot better than I think they ever have in the past. They're 10th in the country in three-point shooting percentage, and Indiana defends the three pretty well, too. It's been one of the things, the last 3 years, Tom Crean loves to say it, the last 3 years, Indiana has led the Big Ten in defensive three-point percentage. And this is a Michigan State team that's a lot different than we've seen in years past. Like, for the last 4 years, they had Adrian Payne in the middle, or a guy like Adrian Payne, and it was kind of centered around a big guy, and then they had not necessarily shooters, but kind of slashers, and they played this grinded-out defensive mentality, and that's not what Michigan State is this year. And it could be a much more high-scoring, high-paced game than I think we've been used to seeing between Indiana and Michigan State. Even when Indiana had Cody Zeller and Victor Oladipo and Jordy Holes, that was still a pretty close game, a pretty low-scoring game. I think it was in the 70s in a game where both teams were making a lot of shots.
It's going to be interesting because I think both of these teams are going to kind of want to, play, they're going to try to control the pace and control what they're going to do. But Indiana, we've seen kind of 2 different ways. I mean, they're going quick, but they're doing it in different ways now. Are they going to get in the paint, or like we talked about a little bit before, are they going to get in the paint, or are they going to just chuck it up? What's Michigan State going to do? Are they going to kind of rely on a guy like Brandon Dawson, who has been, dominant on the rebounding end? Are they going to be going to him knowing that Indiana can't really do much, in the post with Honor, or I don't know who they're going to put on him, because he's an interesting matchup. We can talk more about this, but he's only 6'6". So is that Honor's territory? Are they going to, who are they going to put there? Troy might actually be guarding against him. I don't really know what they'll be looking at. But it's going to be interesting to see what type of tempo we do see out of these teams. Are they going to want to go, quick? Is Michigan State going to allow Tom Crean? Is Tom Izzo going to let Tom Crean dictate the pace of this game and go up and down the court? I don't think so. I think it's going to be one of those kind of, not as bad as Butler, but Butler, how they want to slow Indiana down, wanted to. It kind of worked. I think that's what Michigan State's going to try to do. I think we found out in Nebraska what happens when Indiana can control the pace, and that's score a lot of points in different ways. Michigan State's going to want to try to do something different. I think the easiest way to do that is to slow Indiana down.
Yeah, when the game does slow down like that, somebody like Brandon Dawson becomes even more important. He is only 6'6", but I think that's got to be Hunter Mascara-Perea territory because he's a top 80 rebounder in the country. When he's on the court, he's pulling in 25-30% of offensive boards and 30 to 40% of defensive boards. I believe. Those could be wrong. It's 15 and 25. So he's pulling in 15% of offensive rebounds and 25% of defensive rebounds, which are really high numbers for somebody who's 6'6" and somebody who's been hurt. He's coming off he broke his left hand. If you watched him play against Maryland, he didn't quite look like he was comfortable with that left hand. He he kind of Brandon Jennings it where he shied away from it. He would go up with his left hand and then try to switch with his right hand really quick at the last second. But we saw a different Hunter in the second half of that Nebraska game that I've never seen before. It was his first career double-double, and it was really the first time where we've all stepped back and gone, oh my God, Hunter is might be good now. And we've seen flashes of it before where we're like, oh, that was a good play from Hunter. He hit a little jumper in the corner or something like that. But we've never seen a 15-minute stretch where Hunter Perea was the best player on the floor. And he was.
I think we went from that in about an hour. We went from, I think you tweeted it out hey, remember this month ago when Sam and I were like, hey, when will Emmett Holt be taking over as starter? And then the next hour it was oh, Hunter's knocking on the door of a double-double. Oh, no. He's just that dominant. I think he finished, 12 and 10?
Yeah.
Something around there.
And it was a dominant 12 and 10, too. It was a 12 and 10 that came in 8 minutes. It was Hunter has 4 and 2, and then, Hunter's at 12 and 10.
Yeah, because I think that's almost about exactly what it was. I think he only had 3 points or 1 point and 3 rebounds or something very, very little in the first half.
Bad.
Second half just exploded. He was doing it in different ways, kind of like you touched on. Finesse moves, the dunks from Yogi, we're going to see those. That's just an efficient way to score. Let Hunter do that. But, if Hunter can do, not even that, if he can just average 7 and 7, 7 and 8, 8 and 8, somewhere around there in the Big Ten, you get that right now that 5 spot is your weakest spot on the court. Accept it, just move on.
Yep.
If you can get some sort of consistent 8 and 8, 7 and 7 out of Hunter, that's all you need. And just try to keep a guy like Brandon Dawson kind of in control. And then we'll worry about when you play Purdue when you have 2 7-footers later. That's going to be an issue all on its own. But Hunter, if he can just kind of contain himself, kind of play that second half, try to. It's going to be hard to manipulate that and continue to put out that type of production. You can't expect it. But anything like that, you know it's there. Tom Crean has talked about it all year. He keeps on saying, guys, wait till you see Hunter as consistency. But, if we kind of saw it, now you just kind of have to put those things together. It's just a good sign for Indiana that Hunter that he's got a chance. He's going to be bigger than Brandon Dawson. He's got a chance to kind of control the boards, maybe just from height. I don't know. We'll see. But you have to start there. Has to have a good productive day from Hunter. Yeah,
and when you look past Brandon Dawson, they also have Matt Costello, who plays a lot of minutes for them, who's kind of their biggest, literal biggest contributor. He's 6'9". He's the big white kid if you've watched Michigan State play at all. And he doesn't have what I view as a whole lot of basketball ability, but he plays hard, and he ends up making plays somehow. They were running against Maryland, a game they eventually lost. They were running plays through Matt Costello in the post, and he travels every time. It's never been called, but he travels every time. But it's effective. He works hard. He backs down in the post. He doesn't have great footwork, but he gets where he wants to go. And I think Matt Costello could be kind of a sneaky little problem for them because we all know that Travis Trice is a good point guard. We all know that I'm blanking out his name. DJ Valentine? Nope, DJ's not his name. What's his name? Denzel Valentine. I'm sorry, DJ Valentine. Yeah, DJ Valentine is a kid I played against as a kid. Denzel Valentine. We all know he's a good scoring guard. We know Michigan State has good guards. They're very much like Indiana, where they have good guards, and then when you look inside, not quite what you would expect from a Big Ten, Tom Izzo, Michigan State type of team. But Matt Costello is kind of one of those guys who just sneaks under the radar, and he does what we were just talking about getting out of Hunter. He puts up 7 and 7, or 8 and 8, or 9 and 6, and he goes home. So if you put Hunter on Brandon Dawson, which I think you kind of have to, then you have Costello down there who theoretically has Troy on him. And Troy can't handle him.
No, Troy can't. Well, who can Troy handle? Troy just hasn't. Because Troy, he's supposed to guard. He's supposed to guard a guard. He's supposed to be out there on a wing, kind of. But he just doesn't fit when you're trying to put him at the 4. He just doesn't fit anywhere defensively. And he's not that. We've talked about it. But he's not a lockdown defender. He's not even an above average defender. He's a below average defender.
And he should be.
What do you do?
He's the prototype.
So much better.
He's the prototype for being a good defender. He's crazy long, and he's the most athletic player probably in the Big Ten. He should be a good defender.
He should be a great defender. He should be the guy that we shouldn't be putting Yogi Ferrell against whoever, whenever. We should be Troy on whoever, whenever. That blows my mind that he can't figure out how to play good defense, being that athletic and having we talk about him having 4th and 5th and 6th years. use that on the defensive end. You can do it. That frustrates me. One other thing about Michigan State is kind of weird, and I'm just now picking up on it. But even Michigan State's got 5 losses this year. 3 of them have come in overtime or double overtime, like Maryland. So, and one of them was to Duke, and Duke is,
good.
In a different.
They also got beat by Kansas and Notre Dame. Kansas and Notre Dame were really good teams this year as well.
Point is, this Michigan State team, I don't want to say that they can compete against Wisconsin because they just lost to Maryland, and who knows? But Maryland, we don't really know much about them, I guess, yet, because I want to see them play against other Big Ten teams. But this is a Michigan State team that, this could turn into a very, very, very big win for Indiana if they do go. I mean, 1 year on the road. But if you can go pull this off, Michigan State could, at the end of the year, be competing for a Big Ten title. I mean, yeah, they kind of fell off a little bit. Bad start to lose to Maryland. But they're going to be knocking around. They're going to be hanging around. There's just so much potential here. This could be a really, really big win for Indiana, just looking down the line.
I mean, yeah, you said it's a bad start to lose against Maryland. It's a bad start to lose any game. But they lost in double overtime at Maryland, who, behind Wisconsin, are pretty clear and away the best team in the Big Ten.
I think so.
I think it's a pretty obvious tier where Wisconsin is in a level of their own, and then Maryland is in a level of their own, and then behind them is kind of anybody, really. And honestly, if Indiana can figure out a way to win this game, what's stopping them from being that third team? We've seen flashes this year where Indiana's the third best team in the Big Ten. We've seen flashes where Indiana's the best team in the Big Ten. Not for entire games, but for halves. Second half against Pittsburgh, they were probably the best team in the Big Ten. We've also seen times when they get beat by Eastern Washington, things like that. But, Indiana's got to be at the point where they're not trying to make the tournament. I think they're probably a pretty solid tournament team at this point if they just play the way they have. They have a bad loss in there against Eastern Washington. They have a couple bad performances. Texas Southern wasn't a great performance. Lamar wasn't a great performance. But, they have a tournament resume at the moment. They've knocked off some good teams. I think they're at the point where they're looking around and going, we can win the Big Ten. Wisconsin, when you have a jump shooting team, obviously you're very up and down, and Wisconsin is going to always be there at the top because when you have Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker, you're pretty much unbeatable in the Big Ten. But if you're Indiana, you have a shot at it. You got to at least go into this game and say, if we win this game, we got a pretty good shot at the Big Ten.
I think there's a legitimate argument that Indiana is built not to beat Wisconsin. Don't take that the wrong way. I got to word this right. They're not built to beat Wisconsin, but they're a type of team that can beat Wisconsin just because they've got so much offensive firepower that nobody can slow Indiana down. If you put James Blackman up there and Yogi up there, and Troy gets to his 5th gear and his magical, get by anybody and dunk on anybody, the little zone he gets in. Indiana, I think, is one of the rare teams that, their defense may be awful.
Yes.
And Wisconsin might be able to put up. Wisconsin going slow can probably put up 80 points on Indiana, but Indiana is able to put up potentially 85, 90 points on Wisconsin. If they go and they speed it up against Wisconsin, they try to speed Wisconsin up, which is, good luck speeding up Wisconsin on anything.
It's never happened ever.
It's got a chance. Indiana's it's a fun team to watch because they could potentially beat literally anybody just based on the offense potentially getting really hot at any time. So I think that gives them reason to think, especially starting off with that Big Ten win. I think that was huge. I think looking back, 4, 5 games from now, we're going to look back and say, beating Nebraska in that first game on the road was big. Because that gave them some confidence. It gave them some momentum. They can string together a decent start. You talked about, guarantee, or not guarantee, but probably being an NCAA tournament team. I think you have to go 500 in the Big Ten regardless.
I think they will, especially when you add a Rutgers. I've got the schedule pulled up here. They've got Rutgers twice. They've got Purdue twice. Purdue's not a good team. They've got Northwestern. They didn't exactly pull. Yeah, they've got Michigan. Michigan's terrible. They didn't exactly pull the toughest Big Ten schedule you could pull. They only have Wisconsin once. They have Ohio State twice, but we've seen Ohio State's beatable too. We're getting away from Michigan State tomorrow, and I think that's okay. But another point I wanted to bring up is, did you happen to see the article posted on, I think it was CBSSports.com, about the number one bullet point was Tom Crean's adjustments have saved Indiana's season and have made Indiana the team to watch. I read that and I laughed. I was like, that's not true, Crean. And then I thought about it. I think Tom Crean's been pretty damn good this year, actually.
I mean, that's one way of putting it. I mean, you gave him. It's like you walked up to Tom and you just gave him like. Tom was so prepared to like go play golf, and he had like this set of golf clubs, and he's like, "Here you go, Tom. Go play golf with these golf clubs." He's like, "Oh, I'm so ready. This is what I do. I hit my drive 300 yards, and then I chip on. That's my game." And then you're like, "Oh, by the way, I'm pulling your driver out. You can't use that." And now you can just putt really well. So good luck. You just changed his game on him. You said, "Tom, I'm just giving you a totally new rule book. Do something different. You can't just be Tom Crean. You just reinvent yourself."
Right.
All in the matter of one offseason. All in the matter of really, I think, 5 games. That Canada trip was your chance where it's like, Tom, here's your tools, figure something out.
Yeah, because no Tom Crean team has ever been like this before. If you go back to any of his Indiana teams or any of his Marquette teams, they've never been a 3-point focused team.
No, and they haven't been a 3-point focused team. I don't think Tom's ever played with a non-center.
Yeah, he's like I don't want to call him Honnor's not a center, and I don't want to call him a power forward because he's not really powerful. No. He's like
he's a forward.
Yeah, he's like
just a forward.
He's a middleweight, He's not big, but he's not. He makes me so mad. If I were 6'9" and 220 pounds and I could dunk like that, man.
You wouldn't be on a Skype call talking about.
I would not be on a Skype call at 10:50 on a Sunday night talking about basketball. Wow.
But the point being, though, Tom he was handed a really bad hand. They dealt him a bad hand, and then like he made it work. Mm-hmm. It's kind of. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think that was probably the first credit he's gotten for it nationally. Definitely, I don't think locally anybody's been talking about it. But
no,
Tom
I've definitely given him none.
I think we've been too focused on all the things that are broken. But Tom did make the best out of a really weird lineup. I don't think he wants to continue with this. I don't think Tom's going to be like, yeah, no, I like this a lot. We should keep on being bad at defense and just hoping we score a ton of points. I don't think that's his long-term goal. He's making it work, and it is fun to watch, I guess.
It's fun. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there are still things – he still makes substitutions that make no sense. Yogi scores 9 points in a row and he gets pulled for some reason. There's still very –
timeouts after giving up the lead.
Yeah, he waits – like against Nebraska, he waited until the lead was literally gone to call a timeout. Why call timeout? Oh, you blinked away. Why call timeout when you're down 10 points? When you're up 10 points, when you could call it when you're down 3, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't call timeouts, and there's still very little semblance of a half-court offense. We really yet to see where they get in the half-court, and you're like, oh, that was a good set. And every game I'm waiting.
I don't think they have sense.
I don't think they do. I think they have breaks and secondary breaks, and then it's just kind of Yogi, please do something, which it was last year, and that got Indiana into a bunch of trouble. But moving back into Michigan State.
Michigan State.
So Michigan State tomorrow, we're leaving relatively early in the morning. We're hoping that the ice doesn't kill us and that we can make it up to Michigan in time. Important things to note. One, I don't believe Michigan State will be back in school at this time. I know Indiana isn't, so I doubt Michigan State will. So no students in the Breslin Center. The I-Zone will probably be filled with old alumni and donors, which are not known for being loud and rowdy. So maybe not the same Breslin Center crowd that we're used to seeing. A bit of a weird game. I'm not really sure what to expect of it. If you have to guess, does Indiana win this game or lose this game?
I think Indiana loses this game. I still think Michigan State at home. I still think Michigan State might be. I know this. I'm gonna bite my. People are gonna play this Skype video a week and a half from now or 2 weeks from now and be like, "Sam, you're an idiot." I think Michigan State might be the second or third best team in the Big Ten.
Better than Maryland?
I think they could be.
They're not better than
Maryland.
They're not better than Maryland.
That game though, double overtime. Okay, well, whatever. Okay, so you're laughing at me already. It doesn't matter. I think Michigan State is better than a 5-loss team at this point. They kind of laid an egg against Duke. They had a real good chance against Duke. They, like you said, the other games, Kansas, that was a 5-point game. Notre Dame was a 1-point game.
Kansas is a lot better than they've been playing this year too. Kansas is good.
They had a hard schedule, and they didn't make any big statements like they could have.
Yeah.
And that doesn't exactly mean you're a good team, but I'm just saying I think there's something there, and I don't think Indiana wins back-to-back games for what would be the second time Tom Crean has ever done that. Won back-to-back road games in Indiana. Tom
In the
does
Big
have a
Ten.
connection to Michigan State.
In
though.
the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten, sorry. Big Ten.
Yeah.
Big asterisk by that. Tom does have a connection to Michigan State, though. You were talking about that a little bit earlier before we had our Skype call.
Coached there twice. He was a grad assistant from 89 to 90, and he was an assistant coach to Tom Izzo from 95 to 99. And he really speaks highly of Tom Izzo. You know, that Tom Izzo coaching tree is pretty huge. I think Jamie Dixon's also on that. I could be wrong. I'm not positive.
Izzo is one of those basketball geniuses, though.
Mm-hmm.
What would he? Okay, we've been too long, but real quick.
Yeah.
Would Tom Izzo do anything? This is just random. It just came to my head. Tom Izzo is given Indiana basketball. Would he do too much differently than Crean is right now? If you gave Tom Izzo Crean's hand,
like the roster this year,
just from like a scheme standpoint, is Tom not doing anything that other coaches would do? I mean, maybe the press thing. We kind of saw the press kind of started. They kind of did that. And Tom keeps on talking about the press. He talked about it really early in the year where he's like, yeah, wait till we get our press in. Wait till we get our full court press in.
And they never did.
Yeah, I kept dying. I want to bring that up to him, but I never did. But, like, it's just not there. I don't know if that's an answer, but would anybody do anything different with this team?
Well, I mean, depending on the coach, obviously each coach would bring their personal style, right? Pitino would press all the time. You know, Krzyzewski would run half-court sets all the time. Coaches would do it differently. I don't know if any coach would do it better. And for those of you who are going to tweet at me and say Tom Crean's not the best coach in the country, I know that. I'm well aware of that. I've written that many times. But there's really nothing more you can do than set up this roster and say, go shoot. You have no... Yeah, you could set up a half-court offense. You could probably do that. But they don't really have a plan B. And it's not Tom Crean's fault that they don't have a plan B. It's the players he has. And, you know, you can say, yes, that's because of recruiting. But he got a lot of kids to recruit who aren't at Indiana right now. Or a lot of kids to commit who aren't at Indiana right now playing for the Hoosiers. He's got, Noah Vonleh, theoretically could be an Indiana Hoosier right now. He's not, you probably expect him to go one and done, but he could be. Luke Fisher would be a huge addition to this program. If he didn't transfer in December, he would change the entire program. Just being there. Being set 6'11" would change everything. And being able to maybe catch a basketball every once in a while.
We forget that he's 6'11".
And really good.
That just passed me. It's like oh, I was just sitting there a few weeks ago when he had like a double-double or something in one of his first games on like TV or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
I think Sam's gone away.
Watching him, I'm like, wow, Luke Fisher is a lot taller than I thought.
All right, so it appears we've lost Sam. But anyway, we will be up in East Lansing tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter at